is tonic in there. Dice. Making stuff with dice and glue. Dice mainly. Glue. And cat fluff. Always with the cat fluff. Oh yeah. That there. So we look professional. You don't want to have a microphone in shot there. So yeah, this one's about, you know, being free and loose and doing whatever you want to do. This one's about being free and loose and making your toys out of whatever you want. Dice. That was 50-50 really. It's New Year's, don't judge me. I'm drinking. Googly eyes. Evil robots from the moon playing in the dungeons, beamed in and playing for the College of Death, playing Blood Bowl. I'm terrible at that game, but I really enjoy the fluff and the story, and just the madness that we rolled with was that anyone that could exist in the Warhammer Old World would run a team. One of the ideas that came up for me was actually based on the dice, predated these actual dice. So I filled in and sanded flat the pips and numbers on the sides of the dice so that the remaining digits would be the player number. And I decided they were the Morrsleib Moon Men. Morrsleib and Morrsleib, the two moons in the old world. So they are weird robots that have come to Earth, come to the old world to play football. So I thought now, especially having lost that team, I might build them for Dungeon Bowl. So my process was pretty much that laborious filling of the pips and numbers on all the dice. So there's, what is it? Let's see. So I've got 3 skeletons, 4 ghoul runners, and 4 flesh golems. The flesh golems are the bigger dice. The skeletons are the D10s, and the ghoul runners are the smaller D6s. So there's a combination of pips and graphic numbers. So I spent some time filling in the dice, combination of green stuff, and trying out the UV resin that I did the glowing bases with in the previous video. The UV resin doesn't glow, but if you put fluoro paint in it, it glows up. It's difficult to fluoresce. Anyway, so I filled in the pips and numbers so that I could sand them nice and flat, primed them. You can see then there's a little bit more of the misses show up, so I gave them a little second fill in some occasions. I knew I was going to give them a nice thick textured paint job. I wanted them to look like they've flown in from the moon. They're in a dungeon, they're dark and dank, and I wanted to give them a really smashed up paint job. I took more time on these than I thought I would. You know, sometimes you just get that flow and you're enjoying your painting and you give them more love than you thought you might. But the first thing I did was cast up a bunch of tracks. These are from the Catafron destroyers, the Mechanicum tank tracks. I've had some of these knocking about. They're really good kits for just kit bashing, odds and sods and greeblies for other projects and builds, filling in those little gaps and things that you want to texture and detail. So they're really good 40k greeblies. So I got a couple of those and I've cut the tracks. Then there's 2 sets of tracks that I've managed to cut into 3 different sizes by cutting and shutting and twisting and turning and taking out the odd wheel. I've then used a 2-part silicone, which you mix, a light blue and a dark blue, mix those 2 together, and it sets up in 5-10 minutes. That again, I've used the UV resin poured some in. What I found best was to do some in the lower parts, let that set up, and then backfill with a second one that's a bit deeper. You can leave the torch sitting on top and let that really cure up, sit them on the windowsill. Even in the winter months there's more UV light coming in than sitting that torch and running your batteries down. Let the sun do the job. So once that's set up, you can pop that tank track out, pop that piece out, see if you've got any missed bits, pour a little bit of the gear in if there's a miss or a bubble where it's trapped because it's so small. Push that back in, cure that, pop it out, and you, after a couple of tries on even some of the really awkward bits, I got a really nice finish. Well, reasonable. They don't, again, have to be brilliant because I want them to look battered, scratched. So I've cast up the tracks, and then I spent a little while making up plasticard spacers so that you've got the similar kind of spacing to the original ones. So within the team here, there's the original parts and the cast up ones, but because they're all slightly different, because I've covered them all in different greeblies to give them all a little bit of personal character, you can't see who's who and who's got the original necessarily and who's got the knockoff copy. Then glue on that dice, stick on loads of chaos bits. I think predominantly it's old chaos rhino bits. Any kind of kit bash, you're going to want greeblies and texture for filling in those gaps. Like I say, little areas under the dice where there was pieces of plastic card, you don't want to see those flat edges. They take you out of the story that you're creating, so you cover those up with texture.
The other thing there that's cast is these flexible little moulds, again from Green Stuff Industries, but lots of companies make them. So all those leftover bits of green stuff when you're making a project, I just shove them into these, so I've always got a little ready supply of them. Dead handy. And in this case it's the eyes for these little buggers.
So yeah, there's the finished guys. Really damaged, gritty paintwork, lots of cream going up to white, pale sand of course going up to white, Rhinox hide for that kind of nice deep brown, a very silvery white colour, I forget what brand, for the scratches, little bits of the pink fluoro paint that you saw earlier, and some, I think, contrast blue through the airbrush to give it a bit of a purple rather than that super punchy pink. I wanted more of a purple look, just again for a bit of depth. There's bits of blue and bits of red in there in the shadows, again just for a bit of colour and texture. Really quite pleased with them. Like I say, I've spent more time on that than I was actually intending, but I just enjoyed the paint process, which is rare these days. Yeah, anyway, hope you enjoyed that. More of the usual bollocks, outtakes and nonsense at the end.
And fireworks in the background. I just like the noise.
We're doing the pause.
Oh no, you're in it. Right. I think I put tonic in there. Oh. Beans. Beans. noise.